Michael, it's a real pleasure to be here and get to talk to you about this today.
Glad to do it.
50 years ago, LBJ declared a war on poverty as part of the Great Society Initiative. Now, 50 years later, what's changed? Are we winning? Are we not winning? Are we making progress? Where do you think it stands?
Well, the first thing to note is that it really was an astonishing moment in American history. So if you think about what LBJ did in the first year or so, in a matter of months, Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, Head Start, Manpower Training Act, Civil Rights Act of 1964, I'll throw that in, Voting Rights Act, on and on and on and on. The question is, what's it amount to? The answer is, if you look carefully and you look at the numbers correctly and you use the right definitions and you're disciplined about what you do, you will find that it's made enormous progress. You may not love where we are, but it's made enormous progress, and we can talk through that.
If we get below, so let's just take one metric. If we took the percent of our population that lives in what we would call absolute poverty, right, which at the time that the program was launched was about 10.5%, and today it's about 10.5%. But if we get underneath those numbers, there's been big changes in youth poverty and poverty in people 65 and older. Do you want to talk about why that's shifted?
So first of all, I love correcting you.
How could you resist?
Poverty in the early 60s was in the 20%.
Agree with
or
that.
more.
Yep.
Came down to about 11, 12% plus or minus by the early 1970s and hasn't budged since. To conclude that the war on poverty didn't work because we spent trillions of dollars and the poverty rate's still in that 12%, 10%, 15% range is just all wrong. It's wrong for two reasons. The first reason it's wrong is that we're using the wrong measure. And the second reason it's wrong is because policy mattered, other things offset. So let's go through that a little bit. Measured wrong. If Robin Hood were to go to every low-income family in New York, give it a room at the Four Seasons, give it 3 meals a day at the Four Seasons Hotel, give it free access to Mount Sinai Hospital, and did all those things for all those families, the poverty rate wouldn't be changed by 1 digit according to the way the government keeps track. Because in their eyes, the only thing that matters is income you earn before the government steps in. So if the government's giving you food and giving you health care and giving you housing, doesn't matter.
So no in-kind benefits are counted, no...
Zero.
Unless it's an income check that they can track.
Cash income before tax. So this is insanity. This is an insane way. It means by definition, anything the government does, and just about anything the government does, and certainly everything a private philanthropy like Robin Hood does, is a failure. So, you know, people have gone back, these wonderful people called economists have gone back and tried to measure what happened to poverty if you count food stamps and you count health care and Medicaid and Medicare, et cetera, and you count housing vouchers. And the answer is it's probably come down about 40%. Something like from the 20% plus numbers to something like the 15% numbers of today. That's not bad. That's a 40% is a pretty deep cut into the number of people who are poor measured correctly. It's not that the war on poverty failed, it's that the private market failed. We've been living for decades in a world in which wages of low-paid workers, wages of the very people that are on the cusp of poverty or no poverty, have either been falling or stagnant. Over 20, 30 years, wages of low-skilled workers have been caught in a trap. That's been generating higher and higher poverty. The anti-poverty war has been trying to offset that, and indeed has more than offset it, but you're not going to get big income gains when you have automation, globalization, et cetera, driving down the wage rates of low-skilled labor.
So in the relatively near term, we can't change how the United States government approaches the problem. We can encourage, but we can't change. But what we can do is change what Robin Hood does here in New York City. What should we do to make a difference?
It raises an important point, which is for us, public policy is like the force of gravity. It's important, but we can't change it.
Right.
It's not in our purview. And so we have to take advantage of the cards we've been dealt. So we spend a lot of time taking advantage of every government program that's available and then learning from what the federal government's done in order to design our programs.
how would you encourage others in the city to follow Robin Hood's lead? Do you have a point of view as to, again, we'll accept government policy as gravity. What else can we do to reach out to others in our city?
I mean, the big difference, the big divide, frankly, in the philanthropic world is between foundations and charities like Robin Hood that measure carefully, work overtime, not to take credit for things that are happening anyway, but only things that we cause to have happen, versus charities and philanthropies that don't connect their programs closely to their mission and don't measure correctly whether they're very effective. We do our best to help foundations and work with foundations that do it our way, and try to help wherever we're asked. But that's, we cooperate whenever possible. It's a way of magnifying the impact of our dollars to walk into an intervention, whether it's job training or schools or charter programs or whatever. It's always best to walk in with other foundations alongside.
Michael, thank you. Thank you for all you do. Thank you to the staff at Robin Hood, and thanks to all the volunteers and all those who give.
I shall thank them. Thanks very much. It's been fun.